Hello and welcome to the last session of the day, which is Plastic Seas and Campsite Chaos. Da, da, da. I hope you've all had a nice day. Have you had a good day? Yeah. Good. I'm sorry I couldn't join you for all of it, but the last few sessions have been really interesting. So thanks for having me. I was really happy to see Jane Healy on the lineup of speakers. Jane, where are you? Hi. I used to work with Jane many moons ago at Sunrise, and I'm quite fascinated to see how we've both grown up to become obsessed with toilets and pee, paper and poo. Who knew? If you see my TEDx talk, you'll see why I'm extolling the virtues of pee, paper and poo and how it can change the world. One flush at a time. So I'm Natalie Fee. I'm the founder of City to Sea. We're a non-profit organisation running campaigns to stop plastic pollution at source. Some of the campaigns you may have heard of are Switch the Stick, which was our campaign where we called on all UK retailers to stop making cotton buds out of plastic and make them out of paper instead. So now all UK supermarkets, apart from Superdrug, who have still not stuck to their promise, boo indeed, will have paper stems on the shelves, if not now, then very, very soon. We also run the Refill campaign, which is our free national tap water initiative, connecting people to taps through a free app. And we've just secured funding for 2 years, and we're very happy to be working with James on that as well for Refill London. And we're also piloting a reusable menstrual products sort of education programme, periods the facts across the Anglian Water region, and looking at rolling that out across schools. So really sort of educating students around the alternatives around menstruation and the products and the environmental impacts of our periods. So that's enough about me. Let me introduce you to our wonderful panellists that we've got. So next to me, are we James or Jamie today?
James.
James, I thought so, yeah. I've got James Dowdell here to my right. James is a director and festival campaign manager of Raw Foundation, a fantastic campaigning organisation targeting disposable waste, especially plastic. Raw Foundation launched and published their first plastic-free festival guide in partnership with Cambay Events in 2014. And you've got a new one out today, haven't you?
We have fresh.
Hey, good. Yeah. Brilliant. And James is also the Client Campaigns Director at Project Dirt, a social enterprise that connects grassroots community activist groups with local organisations, enabling them to achieve their goals, like Refill London. Yay. And then next to James, we've got Rob DeBank. Now, Rob is a music broadcaster and tastemaker, one of the UK's best-loved music curators who first gained public attention with Sunday Best, a label and club night founded in London in 1995. Rob also co-founded... that grew into 3 multi-award-winning music festivals, Bestival, Camp Bestival and Common People. He also co-founded the award-winning music supervision and licensing company Earworm Music, and it's a great pleasure to have him with us today. Thank you. And right the way down there at the end, we've got Adam Hall, who's the head of sustainability at Surfdome and the wider Internet Fusion Group, Europe's largest action sports retailer. Under Adam's leadership, which has been exemplary, I must say, Surfdome has already removed the equivalent plastic as 1.2 million plastic bottles from its internal operations and is working to influence other companies to do the same while supporting the Plastic Project and 2 Minute Beach Clean. All delivered from a highly sustainable new state-of-the-art warehouse, which I think Adam's going to tell you about later. It's very exciting. So yes, this is our fabulous panel. So we've got now around sort of 45 minutes to hear from each of our panellists, and then we'll have a little bit of time for a Q&A, and we'll just sort of dive deeper into the issue and make sure we leave lots of time for questions for you. Who's first? Let's have a look on the slides. Adam, you're first on my list. Are you okay to go first?
I'm the awkward one with a silly presentation, so I need to...
Let's leave you till last then, shall we?
Okay. Yeah.
Should we leave you till last? Yeah. Let's go with ease. Grace and ease all the way. James.
I've got some slides. I'm not sure whether they're pre...
Let's see. Oh, no, hang on. They might be preloaded.
From the last presentation.
You just have to skip over Adam's first two.
Oh, is he on?
Okay. Close your eyes. Don't look at the screens. Didn't see that. Didn't see that. And then we're back. Okay, good. So, over to you.
Hello?
Hi everyone. Thanks Natalie for that introduction. It's a real pleasure to be here. I don't know if anyone has heard of Raw Foundation, but if you have, you will have probably met the founder, Melinda Watson. She sends her apologies she couldn't be here today. She's actually in India visiting, doing a memorial for her son, actually, who, with a little bit of background about the charity, I think it's quite meaningful and sort of poignant that today actually marks the sort of 10th anniversary of when Raw Foundation was set up. Raw Foundation is the UK sustainable development charity working with young people to promote sustainable consumption and production through education and behavioural change programs, one of which is called Making Waves, which I'm going to talk a little bit about later, where we've been working with festivals. But a bit of history about the charity. When it was set up in 2008, it was due to Melinda's son, Rory, actually dying in India. And that is actually 10 years today. So it's really nice to be here today. He was a friend of mine as well, so it's nice to be here doing something really positive, about to launch a plastic-free festival goer's guide, which is a poignant moment for the charity. But she sends her apologies. I'm just going to give you a bit of a run through on plastic. I know we've heard a little bit about it just before in the previous presentation, but I think it'll just give you a few slides on the sort of what the problem is with plastic. Thank you. And then I'll get on to the main bit of my talk, which is focusing on our new plastic-free festivals guide, which I hope will be really relevant for everyone here today, because it should help organisers like yourselves come up with some sustainable solutions for dealing with plastic and rolling them out across your other festivals. So will that click?
Is it working?
Click right, yeah.
Yeah. Boom. Awesome. What's the problem with plastic? The main problem, as you will have probably heard, because it's got a lot of headlines recently in a lot of the news, is the fact that we are producing millions and millions of this stuff without actually knowing what we're going to do about it. As you just heard from Ed, we really don't know. It's a very new material. It was created in the 50s, and since then we have just skyrocketed on our production of it. Effectively, I know many of you will have seen the sort of headline stat that came out quite recently, that by 2050 there's going to be more, by weight, there's going to be more plastic in the ocean than fish, which is shocking, and actually has grabbed a lot of the headlines, but we're still not doing anything about that. We're still producing. The tap for plastic is still fully on, and we're still producing without knowing how to deal with it. So just the sheer quantity of it is a real problem. This slide here just depicts 1 million plastic bottles, which are brought around the world. This is just a photograph of it, and I think it's quite poignant to see. I don't know if anyone has seen that TED talk by Chris Jordan. It just depicts the sort of sheer volume of these numbers. We hear sort of 1 million produced every minute. That's what it looks like, and it's really scary. So effectively, the other next slide will just show you a bit of a sort of ski jump graph of our production of plastic since it's sort of first being produced in 1950. And the shocking thing about this is that this is only to 2014, and actually the predictions over the next 20 years is that it's going to almost quadruple. So that graph is going to start to go off the scale. So we've really got to work out what we're going to do with it at the moment. And the next slide there just gives you a really interesting view of the amount of plastic that's being produced globally, and actually where the three main the majority of all of that plastic is going. You can see that 72% of the plastic packaging is not recovered at all. And most of this is ending up in either landfill or leaking into other waste streams and waterways. There is a small percentage that is getting recycled, but globally, it's in the West we do a lot. We talk a lot about recycling, and we are quite good in a way of communicating that out. But effectively, in other areas of the world, it's just not their priority, recycling, and they just don't have in Indonesia and other parts of the world. they're a lot further behind. So, you know, if we think we've got a problem with recycling, I think you'd get a shock if we saw what other countries are dealing with at the moment. The next slide is just to give you a bit of a view of, you know, again, saying if we carry on business as usual, we're going to be in trouble, and not to paint too dark a picture. But we really do need to come up with some solutions quickly. On top of the sort of amount of plastic or quantity, the other key issue is the fact that it's toxicity, and it is actually being ingested and starting to come up the food chain now. So as plastic does degrade and break down, it never goes away truly, but it does break down into smaller and smaller pieces, and those microplastics effectively then are the types of things that end up in our seas and can be picked up by marine wildlife. As you can see, that picture just depicting how much a small fish in Portugal can ingest. And the other scary thing about those plastics breaking down is they actually begin to act like a bit of a sponge when they break down into molecular level, and they can actually attract other toxins such as BCBs and bioaccumulate, which is then making them sort of super toxins. They then get ingested by fish. We then eat the fish, and we now have a serious human problem with the fact that all this plastic is being ingested by us, and we're still yet to see some of the damaging effects that will have, but it's a scary one. The next slide just gives you a bit of a view of how it's getting absolutely everywhere. That's up on the Arctic Ocean, a big lump of plastic. And the next slide just gives you a view of actually plastics getting into salt. So that's a zoomed in version of salt. So, you know, what you're sprinkling on your chips, you might have to think again about. So it's really scary how far it's getting and breaking down into all of our food systems. I think I've hammered that point enough. Disposability, I think this is probably really relevant for everyone. Everyone here will be familiar with a picture like that, I think, of how we effectively think we deal with something. We chuck it in a bin and it goes away. But the truth is far from it. And we can try and do our recycling efforts, and we can try and do a good effort with that, but we're really not doing enough. And as you heard again earlier by Ed, the recent news from China banning the import of plastic, post-consumer plastic, is going to have a significant impact on a lot of our current recycling efforts. So we need to come up. There's going to need to be a solution to that. I'm going to get on to the main slide. Here, this just talks about, I want to talk a bit about now what Raw Foundation have been doing over the past 2 or 3 years, actually, working with festivals. This slide here is actually one of the old, you may have seen this if you've been to Shambhala or Glastonbury, where we've been working. But we produced a plastic-free festival goer's guide and for organisers. And this was really just to help everybody learn what they could do personally as festival goers, but also what you could do as organisers. We also, when we were working there, we were distributing stainless steel bottles like the one I have in front of me, as well as doing art exhibitions and raising awareness about the damaging effects that plastic can have. We also doing things like using social media and doing plastic pledges, so getting people all around the festival really raising awareness about it, and getting people active about the problem. And Shambhala and Glastonbury and the festival we worked with have been really, really good so far. Perfect. And so effectively where we're up to now is we are starting to relaunch. We've relaunching the plastic-free festival goer's guide. I have it in front of me. Today we are actually, it's been launched online on Raw Foundation's website. So if you go to rawfoundation.org, you'll see on our news page that it's a free download, it's PDF, so you can go on there if you're an organizer, have really helpful tips about how you can deal with some of these sort of main offenders, which I've got on screen now, which are the single-use plastics. These are the items that, as we've heard before, take ages to produce, that huge amount of energy, huge amount of effort to produce, but they're used once and then they're thrown away. So in the guide, you'll find out a lot of helpful tips and hopefully a lot of useful ideas that you can share and feedback on, and hopefully it'll be a really useful tool for everybody. The final slide should just give you a bit of an overview of what the guide is asking, our sort of call to action. But really, we're trying to help people rethink their overall supply chains about what they're ordering and what they're offering to festival goers, and trying to sort of rethink your supply chain, prevent and avoid single-use plastics on site, introduce and provide reuse and refill systems on site, similar to the sustainable bottles, and soundly recycle the rest. I'd like to do this at the end, Nat, because I think I might get in trouble if I do it now. But I would like to sort of thank everybody. There's been people in the room that have contributed to this guide, a number of people. So at the end, maybe at the panel, I could get people to come up and we'll have a little photo moment to thank everyone. But really to say thank you for everyone who has contributed to it. And please, to everyone, you can go online and download this today for free. And finally, to say that we are actually, with Raw Foundation now, we are actually having a bottle supplier. We are able to supply stainless steel, 100% stainless steel bottles to festivals in the UK. So if you are looking to offer something similar, a refill system at one of your festivals, please do get in touch with us, because we can help you if you've got orders. We can hopefully come together and put some orders down. So if you're interested in that, come and speak to me afterwards. But the email address is sales@rawfoundation.org. That's the plug. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James, and congratulations. We're still flying the flag for Rory these 10 years on. Amazing. Okay, actually, I think we'll go with Adam next. We'll go with the slides, because then we're slide free from there onwards, I think. Do you want me to move out of the way?
No, it's cool. I've
Okay.
just got to I'll just jump in there. There's always one.
Fancy production.
Now, hopefully that's come up, and it has. Excellent. What a
And you've got the
start.
clicker.
I'm going to stand up because I can't actually see the screen. So. Cool.
You can do that fun running between screens if you like.
Okay. That looks very strange. I'm going to talk to you about influencing change. I appreciate I come from a completely different industry from you guys. We're an online retailer. But hopefully you can just draw parallels throughout this whole presentation. And actually, I just want to just have that point that actually you're in a position of influencing. You're in a highly visible position. So you should be able to draw parallels from what we've actually achieved. Let's hope this works. Oh, no. Yay, there we go. Surfdome, let's talk about... Do I have to double click it, do I?
Point towards the computer, that's where the brain is.
Yay. Okay, we went straight past one. My name's Adam. I'm head of sustainability for Surfdome. There we go. I'll just tell you a little story about this image. I love the ocean. I love surfing. That's why I'm in this role. And this is Penation Island. It's in between Jakarta and Java. It's 5 hours away from any population. It's the highest grade of protection we can give any place. It's a World Heritage Site. We were there for 10 days. We didn't see any human activity. Way. We're going to have fun here, aren't we? There we go. Except one of those. And actually, this place was absolutely trashed. It was like a rubbish dump. So it was amazing to see. You had a tide line of microplastics around your waist when you're in the sea. So I just want to say to everybody, do not underestimate what we're doing with plastic. It's insane. It's got to a ridiculous level. My local beaches are just all over the place. And it's a global problem. There is not one beach on this planet that doesn't have plastic. Children today will never know a beach without plastic. It can't go on. Okay, so Surfdome. Obviously, the environment's important to our customers. We're predominantly out in the oceans, in the mountains, in the hills. That's just a few stats about who we are. We ship to about 60 countries, 5.5 million products. You get the idea. going to go through this really quick because I appreciate it's been a long day. These are some of the other environmental activations that we've done. I'm not going to go into these, but we're an action sports retailer, so we take action. We don't bother with paperwork. We don't bother with paper trails. We literally just take action. We sit down and we go, okay, what can we make a difference tomorrow? So there's a whole series of different activations that we've done there, and that's things like renewable energy, endorsing sustainable products, and so on and so forth. We won't go into detail with those. It's coming. Yeah, there. Come on. There we go. But I'm going to talk to you about a headline sustainability strategy, which is around marine plastics. Now, it's a 1, 2, 3 approach, so I convey this to everybody. You have to keep it as simple and communicatable as possible. Environmental sustainability is quite complex. If you break it down into a 3-stage, then it's really communicatable across your own group, your own business, and actually to your customers as well. So number 1 for us was awareness. We supported something called the Plastic Project, which was a film series, a content series, which took the viewer to remote locations around the world, these stunning locations, beautiful scenery, beautiful surfing, really inspired the viewer, but all the while was highlighting the fact that these remote locations were being directly affected by marine plastics. We tend to find that people switch off, they get overwhelmed by the problem if you bombard them with it. It's like, well, what can I do? This is a massive global problem. Well, actually, you can go anywhere in the world and spend 2 minutes picking up a few bits of litter. 2-minute beach clean does that, just puts the power back in everybody's hands. Maybe adopt it on your festivals. And actually, what this led into was the final point, which is a very boring subject, but it's what we did internally as a business. And that's our action. So 1, 2, 3. So what did we do? Not a lot, because it's a bit slow. We eliminated plastic across the business in 1 quarter, and I think that's the point. It can be done. This is the world's most solvable problem. In 1 quarter, with businesses, we can change very, very rapidly. Governments are slow, consumer perceptions are slow, but businesses are quick. So what we did, I'm going to rattle through these very quick. We eliminated, these are annual figures, 0.39 tonnes of plastic from switching to refillable ink toners. Went to 100% paper void filling, that eliminated 2.15 tonnes. 1.22 tonnes of plastic tape we got rid of, amazing. And then the big one, we switched from plastic bags to boxes, 9.72 tonnes of plastic saved there. And what that did is total plastic annually was 14 tonnes. You can see our old packaging with our new. But this is the other point I wanted to speak to you about. It's very difficult to change consumer patterns and customer patterns. So what we did is we literally just took it out of the customer's hand. We knew they cared about it. We know they care about marine plastic pollution. But actually what we did is we just said, we've done it for you. We're just going to send you biodegradable cardboard boxes with biodegradable tape, biodegradable in interior packaging. We just took it out of their hands entirely. But what does that equate to? Well, to put it in real terms, over the first 2 years, it's equivalent to 1.2 million plastic bottles we've eliminated from circulation. A lot of you will be thinking, well, that must have cost money. Well, actually, what we did is we looked at the business and we looked at sustainability as a whole. So where we found savings, we reinvested it into the more expensive factors. Sorry, you guys down that end. At the very top, above the line, is the expenses. Those cardboard boxes were 110% more expensive. No finance director's going to like that. So what we did is we just added up all the savings which are below the red line. It's a really simplified version, but it just goes to show if you look at sustainability as a whole, as a model, and reinvest it back in, then you can make it into a positive story to the finance director. It's coming. So just to recap, 1.2 million plastic bottles eliminated. It was highly positive with our customer base, massively positive, I'll show you in a moment, and it saved us money. Why wouldn't you do it? So, sorry, let's go back one. So I just want to talk to you about influence. Now, these are the 4 main areas that we can influence. Our customers, internally in our own business, the brands we deal with with about 500, and then the wider industry. And just draw parallels with your industry as well. This perhaps can translate. It's going to do it. So our customers. At one stage, 2/3 of our social media, this is going to take a while, was talking about cardboard boxes. The new social media manager at the time was completely perplexed by this. They're all talking about cardboard boxes here. what's going on. But it just goes to show just how popular that was amongst our customer base. And this is why we've done it. This is what customers are asking. This is what the wider community are just switching on to. And this is what they're expecting from businesses. This is what they're expecting from us all. They're asking some fundamental questions, particularly with products. Do I need it? I've already got one. Did I buy badly last time that I have to buy another one? How was it made? Was it made using toxic chemicals? Was it made using different dyes, perhaps? What was it made of? Is it toxic in its own right? Oh, come on, it's coming. What is it packaged in? Is it just basically packaged in landfill? What happens to it at the end of its life? And then, what is the brand doing socially? Is it supporting social activations? And what we've done is we've put together a sustainable gear listing just to help customers if they're engaged in that. We've actually put a gear listing that's actually sustainably focused. We'll skip through this, but that's obviously just saying what we've done internally. We've just moved into a highly sustainable warehouse. My point there is actually what it's done is it's turned into the DNA of the company. It was so popular with our customer base, eliminating all that plastic, that actually what we've done is we've gone and invested into sustainability much, much, much deeper. And we're now in probably about as sustainable building as you possibly can be without actually moving to the woods. I'll just talk very quickly about our brands because I'm running out of time. We did do a survey. I won't go into that. But basically, they came back to us and said 100% of them would address sustainability if they could afford it, and the barrier for them was knowledge. So what we've done is we've come up with a guide, just like the festival guide there that James has, for our brands, and actually just got a traffic light system for all the packaging. And actually, we're guiding our brands into best practice. And then obviously, the other barrier for them was price, and we've disproved that. And then wider industry, very briefly, we were a case study for the World Business Forum for Sustainable Development. We were actually mentioned in a document that was actually delivered at the World Economic Forum for our efforts. So we're influencing a wider industry. And then on a very quick final point, we are looking at a research project because there's no clear solution to get rid of these plastic bags. So that's how we hope to influence wider industry. I'll leave it there.
Thanks very much, Adam. So I think that's really interesting to just see actually, that can be relevant in terms of festival HQs and how you can green, your internal operations as well. And I've been really impressed at the way Surfdome is influencing other large organisations as well. So the changes that you make do ripple out beyond the ones that you're making yourselves. So thanks very much. How's this? Are we back? Thanks. I'll just move on. Oh, that was the last slide anyway. Which one? There we go. So over to you now, Robbie. So I'd love to just hear a little bit about you and where you're at the moment, your organisation, and where you're at with single-use plastics at the moment.
Yeah, I was going to do a nice presentation, but Ed showed our video already, which slightly dampened the fire on our recycling efforts. Yeah, I mean, joking aside, yeah, that was the world's biggest confetti cannon, which we own. It uses, compostable paper, which, hopefully breaks down pretty quickly. But I'm glad that Ed showed it actually because it did make me think. And I'm here as someone who isn't the world's expert on green, isn't the world's leading expert on plastic recycling. You guys, in the last 10 minutes, I've learned more about it than I knew before. So I'm sort of playing catch up. I mean, I suppose. This year we've become slightly known with Bestival and Camp Bestival launching the Final Straw campaign, which, is a kind of pitiful drop in the plastic ocean compared to what you guys are doing. But the aim is I started AIF, Association of Independent Festivals, 10 years ago. We've now got 65 festivals as part of that, and we've asked all of them as a starter to join that campaign, banning plastic straws. Last 2 years ago, my wife said to me, Robbie, we use 80,000, or we have 80,000 plastic straws delivered to Bestival. I was like, that's insane amounts of plastic for a straw, which kids might want to drink out of, but most adults don't really need to. So like I say, it's the sort of little first steps for us, which seems crazy because, people like Chris have been banging on to us for, the best part of a decade, and Shambhala Festival, hats off to you. You guys are kind of leading the charge. We're very much playing catch up, but I think, what we're trying to do with things like the Final Straw is, bring it to a wider audience and shout about it and try and get to where you guys are going with this. So that's the Final Straw campaign.
And did you get any sort of any praise or complaints from it? Did you just ban them outright, or did you bring in any alternatives? How did you go about doing it?
Well, we had paper straws on some bars last year and on standby, but this year we're having no straws whatsoever. This is obviously with the idea of eradicating single-use plastics from our shows. So this year, there's no. Well, we use recyclable cups anyway since last year, and the problem is twofold for us. We have to landfill tons and tons of rubbish, and again, Ed's slide, that could have been taken at Bestival. I don't know, but I see things like that in our campsites, and I'm kind of disgusted. At Camp Bestival, our family show, on the Monday morning, I look out and there is not a scrap of rubbish in the entire site. It's been picked clean by the campers before they leave. At Bestival, it's and I hold my hands up here. It's kind of it looks like World War III sometimes. So it's sort of twofold. Is one to kind of keep the site tidier, send less stuff to landfill, but also send out the message to our public. And
it's really good to hear that the families are being really responsible and taking responsibility for their litter. But have you?
Yeah, I don't know where they're putting it actually, because it's just gone.
Good.
Maybe they're throwing it in the sea when they get off site.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, throw it off the ferry. And so, have you seen it getting worse, like across your events, like in terms of the litter problem? Is that something that you feel has it reached peak yet, or do you think it's still getting worse, or is it getting better?
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a fuddy-duddy, but I'm 44, and I think I have seen it get a lot worse, and I think I'm not blaming younger people at all, but Bestival is predominantly a young, 18 to 30-year-old crowd. I see an awful lot of them that don't really have the responsibility to put their rubbish into bins, or some of their campsites do look like the one that Ed showed. So I think the problem has got worse. I think it's also retailers, other supermarkets are available, but supermarkets who sell £10 tents, that only adds to the problem. Back in our day, you'd have a canvas tent which your dad might have given you, and you went to Glastonbury and you packed up your tent at the end because it was your tent and you wanted to take it home. Now everything's so much more disposable, so we just get so much stuff that's left, and it's mind-boggling the amount of stuff that's left. And I think a lot of people think that it all gets sent to refugee camps in Africa or India, and it doesn't, unless it's completely bagged up and absolutely pristine. We can't reuse it, so that is a huge problem as well.
So what other initiatives are you trialling at the moment, or what other things have you been doing other than the plastic, the Final Straw?
Yeah, we used Nico Bond for the first time last year, which I know a lot of other festivals, so we didn't invent this at all, have used for years, where the customer pays £10 or £20, Lim? £10 when they buy their ticket, and when you take 2 bags, 1 bag of recyclable waste and 1 bag of waste, back to the hub at the end of the festival, you get your £10 back. Which, we had like 10 to 20% kind of people kind of claiming their money back. So, which apparently was not a bad starting place, but obviously we want to just accelerate that and, for people to be cleaning the campsite themselves and sorting it.
Yeah, good. And have you found that others have been adopting the Final Straw? Is that something that you're sharing with other events?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've got an AIF meeting here tomorrow, and I don't know the final figures, but I can't see that anyone's going to argue with it. We've had lots of messages of support, but it's just such a tiny little gesture that I think we want to quickly.
80,000 straws isn't a tiny gesture. I think you have to celebrate and champion all of those little wins because they make a huge difference.
Yeah, but it is, like I say, the tip of the sort of plastic iceberg, and single-use plastic. That needs to be the next thing at our festivals. And if you look around the UK, 700, 800 plus festivals, we are creating an awful lot of waste and plastic.
Mm. Well, thank you. It's great to hear about some of the new initiatives that you're running. So obviously, James, you've got this incredible guide now. How do you hope to see people taking it on, and what do you think the main sort of, you mentioned some of the calls to actions, but how can people really adopt it?
Yeah, I think it's really been led, similarly you mentioned the AIF, and there's a lot of people that already contributed to it, so I think it's more of a sort of shared knowledge bank really than any kind of one of us trying to get it out there. Really, we're just trying to say, look, we've gone out there, we've spoken to people in the industry, we understand there are some shared problems here, and we've tried to put our heads together, and I must be really clear, I've done, this is mostly Melinda and the team that Chris and others have put together. They put down some really great solutions, and really we're putting it out there for free, trying to ask everyone else to promote that it's out there. If you know any other festivals, if you want to tweet about it, share it on social media, send it to people that might find it interesting, and feedback, because we're trying to just put it out there as an open shared resource, and hopefully improve on it. I think we've seen from when we did it first, the feedback, it comes in it's not this big, by the way. Normally it fits in one of your lanyards, and it's very easy to take around the site. And I've been at a number of the festivals over the years and seen people who have actually read them and understood them as sort of festival goers, and taken them home, and then it's understood that they can make that change in their everyday everyday life as well. So really we're just trying to get it out there, get people to share it, get people to use it, feedback, and try and improve it, and then also take it into their daily lives and try and take on some of those lessons.
So is that an updated version for festival goers as well as?
Yes, so this one first is the organisers, but there will be an updated one as well for the goers as well.
Because it is such an amazing tool for communicating with a massive audience. So amazing.
Thanks.
Adam, so in terms of like the successes that you've had in reducing plastic packaging, can you see any parallels with the events industry, and what advice maybe could you give to bring other stakeholders on board, sort of like people further down the supply chain? And I'm really sorry I've got my back to you all, but my panellists are over here. I feel really conscious that I'm ignoring you.
I don't know. I think now I think it's time to be arrogant. I think it's time we actually have to make a change, and I think we just have to find alternatives. This is the tipping point. I don't know what the parallels, what the answers are, because I guess one of the things that we've done, and I've done personally at Surfdome, is I no longer compare prices with the alternative. I only look at the sustainable pricing, and I only address that to the rest of the group. That's the pricing. Forget it. The other stuff just doesn't exist anymore. And I think we have to be at that stage where we're arrogant, and that's where it's going to have to be.
Yay. Just do it. Just make them all do it. Do you think, so going back to you, James, are there any common myths that we'd like to dispel here? Is there anything that we're kind of, that sort of maybe organisers are saying, oh, we just can't do that because, is there a...
Yeah, I think, Robbie's already mentioned, I think the straws one is kind of classic, where people are like, we need straws, and everyday things that people just think, we must order them because we ordered them last year. Items like that where you can just cut them at source and be like, we're not flat out not doing it. I think we've seen it, when Shambhala did it with banning, plastic bottles, and when you just see a direct kind of decision made up top, that people react. And I think, as you remember Chris saying this in another talk that we did on plastics, where festivals are a fantastic sort of experimental ground for larger, wider society. And if you can go in there and test out some ideas about how people will react if you take away an everyday item that you think they really need, but it's really damaging for the environment, like straws, and see that in reality it actually makes not a big impact on their festival experience, and maybe it has much far greater positive experiences. I think that's what we're trying to promote and showcase here. I think there are, you yourself, Nat, with City to See, with the kind of earbuds and all of the kind of cosmetics that are alternatives. So just really trying to promote that when people says, oh, how will I do? How will I go to the festival? I'm not saying that I normally use my earbuds at a festival, but, I'm sure, those types of things, we're just trying to get out there and, I guess, myth bust and showcase that you don't have to have those items, either with sustainable alternatives or just outright getting rid of it. I think we've seen it as well in wider kind of society with the plastic bags. When suddenly you put a levy on something like that and make it more expensive, people react and people do actually change their behaviour.
And that's something I wanted to ask you, Robbie, actually, was whether you'd looked at piloting levies in, thanks, James, for that. But so with your coffee cups, charging people 25p for a coffee cup unless they bring their own reusable cup. And is that something that your traders would be on board with?
Oh, well, that's one for the
City
traders,
could
isn't it?
receive the donations, of course, just saying that we'd be happy to receive the levy.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, I'll add it to the list of requirements. We already, years ago we banned plastic cutlery at our events. I don't know why we didn't ban plastic straws at the same time, but it seemed like that was what everyone was doing at the time, so we just did that. So and we've always with traders this year we've got a whole new set of rules. I don't know if coffee cups are on the list. I mean, we're sort of doing what we can in as big a step as we can each time, but I'll definitely put it to them. I mean, what's worth adding, and sitting with 65 independent festivals every month, is the list of, or the demands that are on an independent festival promoter are so huge, and this is not a sob story about being an independent festival promoter, because it's great fun as well, but it's a very sort of stressful competitive environment. So these are kind of important, very crucial things that we need to tackle, but they're not always the first thing that we think of. And so it's amazing that festivals like Shambhala and you guys are kind of shoving them in our faces, because it's and it's the same for the traders, that they're worrying about where they're going to hook up their gas, or how they're going to keep their food cold, or this or that. And so whether they're using a bit of plastic here or a bit of cardboard there is not always top of their list. So it's it's very pertinent that this is happening now.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of evidence to show that when you do pass that on to the consumer, that they do actually then make those changes. So, if it's a matter of raising awareness with festival goers and saying, look, you will be charged 25p, by the way, when you come to a festival to get a coffee, but actually if you bring your own cup, you won't be. The other day when the coffee, the latte levy was announced, sales of reusable coffee cups absolutely skyrocketed the following week across brands that I work with. So it does have a really quick effect of just putting that levy on things. So we've got some fantastic sort of expertise here in the room. So I'd like to open the floor up really for questions. I think we've got around another 43, about 10 minutes, I think, for questions. Less. I was allowed to go over though, weren't we? I negotiated an extension. Okay. Oh yeah, no, we don't want to get that far gone. Yeah. All right. Well, so we'll take some questions. I mean, I think just to throw some other things out there, things like to be aware of is like not normalising using lots of single-use plastics. So being careful when you're using your messaging around single-use plastics, of actually normalising reusables rather than normalising the amount of plastic that people are using, because you can have the backfire effect then of people thinking that it's normal to be using lots of plastic, therefore we will be using lots of plastic. So interested to hear if you've got any stories about that. Things like lantern releases as well. So yes, I'll take a question from you first.
Cheers, that was a wicked talk. Talking about like positive changes that smaller festivals, independent festivals, and contractors want to implement, but is there, being part Association of Independent Festivals. Do you guys provide support for these smaller festivals and contractors in making those positive changes? I mean, we were talking, Adam was saying earlier about how you're not really thinking about the price, but obviously for a smaller festival, like was mentioned earlier, like, that can be quite difficult. Is there enough support for smaller festivals and contractors?
Can I just check? Did you all hear the question? No. Okay. Are you happy to sort of repeat? So you're asking basically if there was support for smaller independent festivals to make those changes. And Robbie, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, when I started the AIF 10 years ago, then I started it because I secretly didn't know how to book a band and how much to pay for bands, but I sort of started under a different guise that we had to tackle PRS or something like that. But actually, I just wanted to have a really good gossip to other festival promoters about how much Basement Jacks were worth or something. So, in exactly the same way, the whole green thing is something that 65 plus festivals and lots of other friends of AIF, like suppliers, security firms, green people, are all signed into it, and they share knowledge, and so it's a talking shop for those things. And these guys, and Chris with his powerful thinking hat on, and what's your other hat, Chris? You got a few hats. Energy Revolution, I mean, this is the man to talk to if you want to revolutionise your festival in a sort of green way. So yeah, absolutely, the support is there, and it's free once you've signed up.
Thank you. Yeah.
I just want to say that actually we overcome so many different things in everything we do. There's so many challenges that you come up against. And I always find it really bizarre that actually as soon as we come up with a sustainability challenge, we just go, too expensive. And I think that has to change. I think that we have to use the attributes we've got in every single challenge that we try and overcome. When you're organising a festival, wind, rain, security, all those different things, you find a way around because you're good at it. Just apply that to sustainability.
I'm going to go with the question right here.
Questions for Adam. You were talking about parallels in between the two industries, and I'd be interested to hear you talking about how your model affects the brands and the partners that you have. And I guess for the festivals, that would be our suppliers, our contractors, and traders. But you're talking about what kind of influence do you have on them, and how does that conversation take place? Is it a matter of saying we're not gonna sell these products of yours, or is it more of an information share?
I think it's always a two-way street. We need them as much as they need us. So you have to be quite softly with it. Actually, what we're doing is we're putting it in a place that actually we're presenting the problem, presenting the issue. It's an engaged market, so they want to do something about it for us. I guess it is in the festival industry as well. So people want to do something about it. So it's just about what we've done is we've said, okay, look, we'll help you do it. We've done the legwork for you. We've figured it out for you. We're going to hand it to you on a plate, to make it easy for them. So I think, yeah, it depends on the individual relationships, but you need them. You've got to take that work with approach, and then repeat offenders. Then maybe that's different. If they just consistently ignore it, then that just won't do. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, there's a very strong parallel between the two industries.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, thank you. Did we have... Yep, over here.
Do you think that festivals can do more to highlight the issues of single-use plastics by working with suppliers to make recommendations that provide eco-friendly products to replace, to actually become part of the solution to replace the single-use plastics on site, and also give the festival an opportunity to generate revenue through partnership-based commission-based partnerships?
Don't ask me. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like I say, as a festival, we've done our bit in little ways along the way, and now we're starting to really accelerate. And that's happening across the festival industry. But I suppose there are, like these guys were talking about, if the person who's buying the product puts pressure on the supplier, then that's good. To eradicate plastic bottles, water supplies, and to have it, to have a clean water supply, and for everyone to carry one of these at a 50,000, 70,000, 120,000 capacity festival is really hard, and possibly even not legal. That you probably have to supply water to people. So for your bars to all have enough stock in without some sort of plastic in there is really hard. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely pressure to be put on them. But I mean, what do all the people supplying coffee cups suddenly bring? What do they use? Recyclable.
Yeah, they do. And I think it's a really good. Your point, I think, is a great one. I think that's the way to do it. If you can get a relationship with a supplier that, I guess, you can both help each other by either promoting their product. There's a few listed in the guide here of kind of your classic kind of offenders, like the glitter. Glitter at festivals. If you can get a good glitter supplier at your festivals that isn't gonna, be filling with single-use plastic, if you can share that promotion and actually, I think it relates to smaller festivals as well. Maybe slightly more if you're able to kind of both say, look, if I put in a big order and you can help me promote my new product, and we can both gain from the promotion of putting you out there and promoting that we're, as a festival, are being sustainable and trying to help our festivals go there and helping a sustainable product get marketing and get sold that's how it works. And I think there are lots of suppliers that are catching on to this. I think Shambhala's got a whole stream of great suppliers that at those key events have come already prepared and are promoting their products, and people are that these bottles are everywhere, and there's the eco cups are there, so it's clearly working. It's just got to get that good relationship with the right supplier, and I don't know too much about that, but I know that is possible.
And I'll just add, there's lots of scope too, I think, for working with women or menstruators through toilets and educating them around reusables. There's a huge amount that we can do more to be educating people around the environmental impacts of our periods. So definitely always more we can do. Have we got time for one more question, or are we?
Yeah, one more, then we're doing closing comments.
I'm going to give it to Chris, seeing as we've been Chris from Shambhala.
I think you're selling yourself short, Rob, on Final Straw, because to get circa 70 festivals as it is to take that first step is absolutely massive. We might be shouting from the hills. Sometimes it feels like we're pissing in the wind, to be honest. But that first step is massive. And also my personal approach to change is that you just do what you can. I'm agreeing with you. There's always going to be someone that's done more or less, but each step is sort of big. And I think the Final Straw has catapulted this issue into the industry. And sure, there's all sorts of other things we can do, and the guide's going to be a great resource, but I just wanted to get that one out there.
Thanks very much. Thank you. So to summarise then, it's been really interesting. I'm sorry we don't have longer, because we could probably talk about it for another hour at least. So I think really the sort of key things that came through for me, and just leading in from Ed's fantastic presentation earlier as well. No, it was really, I'm only teasing you. Is to just beware bioplastics, in terms of their life cycle analysis. For many, bioplastics are worse than fossil fuels. There have been examples of rainforests in Brazil being torn down to grow bioplastics. So just be a bit, savvy around what you're doing there. And obviously they're still sort of perpetuating the disposable culture. So from the panel today, I've got arrogant, be bold, experiment with levies, refill, bring about bans, and beware bioplastics. But I've already said that. I'll just say it again. So finally, just to thank our fantastic panelists, James Dowdell, Rob DeBank, and Adam Hall. Thank you very much.